All right. Good evening, everybody. For the record, it is Thursday, November 4th, 5:15 p.m. The City Council is out of executive session. I've called the meeting to order. As always, we start with a pledge to our flag. So I don't know which way. Councilmember Kulas?
Got it. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Kulas. And for roll call this evening, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 7 council members are present this evening. I can count to 7. Isn't that good? Our first item on our agenda tonight are consent items, which would be approving this evening's agenda, vouchers, and our minutes from the previous meeting. I entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve agenda, vouchers, and minutes from previous meetings.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Huffaker to approve this evening's consent items, including the agenda, the vouchers, and our minutes from previous meetings. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have one presentation tonight, and it's regarding Veterans Day, which is just around the corner, actually a week from today. And so I have that, and I will go ahead and read that into the record. Whereas on November 11th of each year, we honor our veterans, men and women who have served our country with honor and distinction. On Veterans Day, we show them our deepest thanks. Their sacrifices have helped secure more than 2 centuries of American progress, and their legacy affirms that no matter what confronts us or what trials we face, there is no challenge we cannot overcome, and our best days are still ahead. Whereas although much has changed since Americans first took up arms to advance freedom's cause, the spirit that moved our forebears in the same spirit that has defined each generation of our service members. Our men and women in uniform have taught us about strength, duty, devotion, resolve, cornerstones of a commitment to protect and defend that has kept our country safe for over 200 years. In war and in peace, their service has been selfless and their accomplishments have been extraordinary. Whereas even after our veterans take off the uniform, they never stop serving. Many apply the skills and experience they developed on the battlefield to a life of service here at home. They take on roles in their communities as doctors and police officers, engineers, entrepreneurs, mothers, and fathers. As a grateful nation, it's our task to make that transition possible, to ensure our returning heroes can share the opportunities they have given so much to defend. The freedom we cherish endures because of their service and sacrifice, and our country must strive to honor our veterans by fulfilling our responsibilities to them and upholding the sacred trust we share with all who have served. Whereas on days like this, we are called on to reflect on immeasurable burdens that have been borne by so few. We pay tribute to our wounded, our missing, our fallen, and their families, men and women who have known the true cost of conflict and deserve our deepest respect, now and forever. Now, therefore, I, Frank Kuntz, Mayor of the City of Wenatchee, with respect for and in recognition of the contributions our service members have made to the cause of peace and freedom around the world, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day in the City of Wenatchee and encourage all citizens to recognize the valor and sacrifice of our veterans through appropriate public ceremonies and private prayers. In witness whereof, I have caused the seal of the City of Wenatchee to be affixed on this 4th day of November 2021. Frank Kuntz, Mayor. Come on up. Thank you, Tim. That's for you. Congratulations. You want to say a few words?
I just want to say, for all those that want to participate or even be in and watch the parade on November 11th, you can give me a call. It was in the newspaper with my telephone number if anyone's interested. Otherwise, come out and watch the parade. We've got at least 3 bands right now and quite a few veterans and a lot of different organizations and agencies that have called in and wanted to be part of the parade. So, and I know in the past we've had the Wenatchee Police, the Douglas County Sheriff, Wenatchee, Chelan County Sheriff, and others that have been part of the parade.
And they'll be there for sure. And again, if those of you haven't gone, I know all of you have gone, but it's a remarkable, it's a short parade, but it's very well done. And all the 21 gun salute and all that will be taking place in the park as well?
Yeah, the parade actually starts at 10:45 outside the Wells Fargo parking lot.
Excuse me. The parade starts at the Wells Fargo parking lot on Chelan and heads up towards Memorial Park, where it stops at 11 o'clock, where we have a presentation of colors and a 21 gun salute. And then the parade continues from there east onto Orondo, down to Mission, and north back to Wells Fargo Bank. I will say that this year, American Legion in the past has always held the colors leading the parade. This year, the Civil Air Patrol cadets are going to be carrying the flags and leading the parade.
Excellent. So hopefully we'll see you all there at 10:45 on next Thursday.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very nice to see you. All right, so citizen comment. I almost forgot that. Any member of the audience wish to address the city council on something that's not on today's agenda or is on today's agenda? Seeing no takers, we have one half of an action item, so we'll call it action item A regarding acceptance of an RCO grant for our swimming pool. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Dave Erickson, Parks and Recreation Director for the city. So let's see. We talked about the pool liner project previously on several occasions, so I won't go into a lot of detail there. In 2020, we started looking for funding assistance to try to replace the liner in the pool. Tim, can you let me drive, or I have a picture up there, if you could just make it bigger. It's probably that one. There you go. So the pool liner is a plaster liner inside the concrete shell there. And so in February 2020, we requested authorization to apply for a state grant to help fund the replacement of the liner. Went through the 6-month-long application process and were successful. $350,000 grant contract was provided to us at the end of September. And before we want to do the liner project, we want to make sure the circulation system is good underneath. So we started doing, our facilities department started doing a pressure test on the various filter lines that run underneath there. And it's kind of hard to describe, but there's a main line that kind of runs across this way, if you can see my cursor anyway, this way. And then there's lateral lines that jump off of that run, and you can see one of the drains right here, one at the very bottom. So when we did the pressure test, they determined that there is a leak in the pool, in the system. So we're in the process right now of plugging all of those little vents, filling it up with water to try to determine where in the pool the leak is as far as a range goes. And once we determine that, then we can figure out either camera it or some other means to determine how big the leak is. And what the next course of action would be, whether that's if we're able to line, like you did under Parkside with the sewer, line the pipe with an internal sleeve, or whether we would have to actually do like we did back in 2012 or 13 and jackhammer out the bottom and replace a section of pipe. So with all of that, this evening I'm actually recommending postponing accepting the grant to a future meeting until we've had more time to explore what the options are for that and the costs associated with fixing the leak on the bottom. I could mention too that once we plugged up all the holes for the drains, we left the top one open. We had a hose in there basically filling up the line. Pulled the hose out, turned off the water, and it sucked down like your drain would in your sink when it's been plugged and you put Drano or another cleaner down there. So we know there's water going somewhere down there. So now the next step is to figure out where. So I'd recommend that we postpone accepting the grant at this time to a future meeting till we can at least figure out what's going on down there first.
Yeah, so the Finance Committee talked about this, and I know we've talked about it here off and on, and there's a $350,000 grant on what we anticipate is an $850,000 contract, which means the city's general fund needs to kick in $500,000. And of course, that pool is it 60 years old?
1965.
So.
And then it was renovated in
Okay,
72.
so I'm a 63 model and I'm 58, so it's 56 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, when you're trying to, fix a 56-year-old pool, who knows what you're going to get? And so it would be sad if we spent $500,000 of city general fund money and $350,000 of state money to reseal it when the pipes are all bad and you got to tear it all up again, or the pool is for some reason is unrepairable, right? With that old of a pool, that's always a question. So I think staff is being prudent about, let's see what the leaks are. Let's see if we can figure out. And if it's a $10,000 fix and we feel good about it, then I think eventually we'll accept the grant and try to do it. If it's $1 million fix, I don't know, or if it's unfixable. I just, at this point, it's too early to tell. We did have an issue 8 or 9 years ago, and they had to dig up some stuff, and they fixed a pipe, and they filled it up, and they found another leak some other place, and they had to dig that up and fix it. So we've done this before. So I guess you keep our fingers crossed to make sure that that we hopefully what we find is not a major fix, and that we feel good about spending our general fund dollars with that grant to reline the pool and get another 10 or 15 years out of it. But
Yeah, the other leak was about where the guys are standing there in the picture. And so they had to actually cut out the bottom of the pool. They found where the leak was. And it was in a pipe, old galvanized pipe. They cut off the pipe and then welded, had to kind of move up a bit to find a piece that was good to weld on the new piece. Put it all back together, filled it back up, and it drained down again. So then they moved up 8 feet more and fixed it further up. So
So
yeah,
Dave,
we'll see.
with the winter months coming on, is that gonna stop you from doing your work here?
Yeah, so we can't let it dry out or freeze because obviously that's really bad for that liner. So they're filling it actually tonight only about this far. So that way then we can see where it's going to drain down to and keep it from freezing in case we get some cold temps. But once we figure out where that leak is, we're most likely going to have to try to fill it back up. And it was holding water without circulating. But we'll have to fill it up for the winter, and then when the weather breaks, come back in the spring and repair it.
so is there a timing when the RCO wants to know if we're in or not in?
Yeah, they always like to have their grants or their contracts returned soon, but I can put them off, probably through the end of this year, since we only have, 3 council meetings left.
Right.
So it may take that long for them to determine what's going on here.
Okay.
So
So if
we've got a good reason.
And if we wait into the first part of next year, that doesn't kick us out of a grant cycle or anything?
No, I think we'll still be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some extenuating circumstances which are justifiable.
So at this point, I don't even know if we need a motion or if we need anything other than we're just not going to take action tonight, and we'll revisit it when we have more information on the pool. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Any questions for David? I know this is I'm glad we did our pressure testing when we did to make sure that, that we're, as I mentioned at Finance Committee, I had to buy new tires for my old car that's got 160,000 miles on it. And I don't know if that was a good deal or a bad deal, but I needed them. And this is almost like the same thing. It's like, do you fix the 56-year-old pool or not? So, all right, thanks, David.
You bet.
All right, so we have one public hearing item tonight that is regarding our property tax collection from the city of Wenatchee for the city of Wenatchee. And then are we going over the budget tonight, Brad, or not?
Yes, after the property tax
Okay,
ordinance. So tonight we have ordinance 2021-29 to authorize the 2022 property tax levy. So each November, the city council adopts an ordinance that sets the following year's property tax levies. For the past 20 years, the council's had to adopt 2 different levies. One was the regular levy, and one was the police station bond levy. The police station bond levy will actually be completely paid off, or the police station bonds will be completely paid off on December 1st. So just in a few weeks. And so that levy is going to expire, and now you only have to adopt one levy, the regular levy. So I can quickly, I know in the agenda packet, there's a calculation, and I was just going to quickly walk through that on how it's calculated. So we start off with the 2021 certified levy that the assessor provides that value on, and we are allowed to take a 1% increase on that by statute. So that $4,305,000, that is just that was 2021's regular levy. That does not include the bond levy that was on, that was separate from that. So that's the regular levy plus 1. And then the assessor provides an estimation on new construction and annexations that occurred. Those add on top of the property taxes. Those don't affect every other property owner's taxes. It's just the new construction and annexations take on that additional tax. Then a few years ago, it was decided that when the bond levy went away, we would use the same amount we would use the same amount of banked capacity to make our bond payments on the new city hall remodel. So that's what you see, the bank capacity added on there. And then there's, on top of that, there's this refund levy, which the county assessor staff has explained to me in the past as adjustments that were made on the 2021 levy that can be rolled into the 2022 levy. It's a very small amount, but gets us to the total property tax collection that we expect to have is 4.7 million, which is the regular levy is now going to be 2.3% more than what the two 2021 levies combined were. And of that 2.3% increase, half of that is related to new construction and annexations. So the average property tax payer, assuming that everybody's home values go up at the same rate, the average property owner should see just about a 1% increase on the city of Wenatchee's property tax amount. Any questions?
Yeah, so this is sort of consistent with the plan that we adopted a couple of years ago when we purchased the building. We knew that this levy would come off for the police station, and we knew that we would plug that with the bank capacity in order to make the bond payment. So this is consistent with the plan, and I see our levy rates actually going down a little bit because, property values are going up. And, I think the overall person's taxes will get the 1% increase, and it just ends up on different lines on their property tax. But, and then I don't think there's anything in terms of bank capacity going forward that I can think of, unless at some point we decide to do a sidewalk program or something else in the city. But at this point, I think we're sort of done with this building and all of the regular services that we've been operating under. So, are any questions for Brad before I take comments from the public? Hearing none, any member of the audience wish to address the council on our public hearing item regarding the property tax levy? Hearing none, I will turn over to council for their action.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the City Council to approve Ordinance 2021-29, authorizing an increase in the regular property tax levy to be collected in the 2022 tax year.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Bailey, to adopt Ordinance 2021-29, authorizing an increase in the regular property tax levy to be collected in the 2022 tax year. Discussion?
Your Honor, I know I'm a broken record when it comes to the property tax increase, but I think this year it's even more important. One of the biggest issues we have in Wenatchee is affordable housing. We know that any increase we put on property taxes are going to be passed on to renters and low-income people who are renting those places. This year in particular, we actually have a surplus in our general fund that we're working to pay down, and I think it's irresponsible for us to raise taxes at this time, especially when people are still recovering from COVID. I'll be voting no.
Right. Thank you, Keith. Any other comments from anybody else? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
For the record, passes 6-1. Mr. Posenjack, anything else on the budget you want to add this evening?
Well, I think I do have a hopefully short presentation.
Okay.
on the 2022 budget. I think Tim's going to pull that up. I figured since in 2 weeks from now, council will be presented with a 2022 budget, with an ordinance to adopt the 2022 budget. Thought it might be helpful to quickly walk you through the budget document. I did send a copy to everybody a couple hours ago, just so it would be at the top of your inbox in case you want to flip through this while we're going through the slides. I'm not going to get into a ton of detail, but I just want to hit on a couple highlights and mostly how to use the document. At the beginning of the document, we've got an overview of the budget process and policies. We've got a brief discussion of kind of what the COVID impact has been on the city. We've got a city org chart, and then we added a new chart that has a history of the city's budgeted FTE, budgeted employees. And then at the end of the intro section, we've got Exhibit A to the ordinance that you'll be presented in a couple weeks. This exhibit is at the fund level. You'll see the 44 different funds that the city has. You'll see the general fund is the largest fund, has the largest budgeted expenses, and in the general fund has multiple departments, such as the police department and the mayor's office, and you can, as we get further, we'll talk about that a little bit more. And so this will be adopted at the fund level because that's sort of the minimum requirements of statute. Then after that, we start focusing on the general fund, again, as that is the largest fund and includes a bunch of different things. We've got a long-term projection that takes a look at the last 5 years, what has actually happened, and has a projection of the next 5 years. Fortunately, it's good to see that as we start projecting the numbers and looking further out, that the revenues and expenses, we really do think that they are going to keep pace together. I know I've heard lots of discussion in the past about expenses outpacing revenues across all governments, but maybe I'm more optimistic, but I think long term we look very stable as far as our revenues and expenses holding steady. We've also got a breakdown of how instead of having a budget by the fund level for the general fund, we've got a breakdown of the different revenues and different expense types. So again, I'm not gonna spend a ton of time, but there's a couple numbers here that do pop out that I wanted to comment on. We just talked about property tax, so I won't spend time on that. Sales tax, or recurring sales tax, we have budgeted for $10,400,000. I will say that is a very conservative estimate for 2022. In 2021, we have budgeted for 9.5, and all signs are pointing to that it'll probably be actually close to 11 million. And 2022, again, we could change that number, we could raise that, but what we've learned from COVID is if you think something's going to happen 6 months from now, it probably won't. So we're not exactly sure what sales tax will do 6 months from now. We're hoping it keeps on going up, but for now we've got 9.5% increase on the budgeted amount. Another thing, we'll see building and planning permits look like the budget increased greatly. I would say the main reason is because the 2021 budget number was very conservative. When you see the last few years, we've been consistently over 700,000 easily. This year, we're already at 800,000. 800,000. Some of that is due to the PUD permits, which we're not going to have next year. But we still have a lot of activity going on, and so that we feel like that's going to be strong.
And we're in for one very large permit right now. Whether that gets issued before the end of the year and paid for, issued in January, will be interesting. But we're in for one fairly large permit. We'll see when that hits.
And then moving from revenues into expenses, this has all of the different departments of the general fund. The one that pops out right away is economic development that has been budgeted, but due to staffing changes over the last year or two, that department is being absorbed into the engineering and a little bit into the mayor council department. As you can see, engineering's increased quite a bit. And so that just got moved around a little bit. And the other thing that sticks out is the Planning and Development Department, where it's actually down 7.7%. It's not really down. What happened was we took there's a homeless coordinator position that has, in the past, has been paid out of the general fund, but then reimbursed by the homeless housing fund. This year, we've just moved it out to just come out of the homeless housing fund, and it'll cover that salary. So it looks like a decrease, but it's just in a different spot. And then you see the non-recurring. There's a big percentage increase on non-recurring. And the main reason, well, there's two reasons. The 2021 budget, when it was built, we didn't know what 2021 was going to look like because we were in the middle of the COVID pandemic. And so we were very conservative with our one time because we wanted to make sure that we kept our reserves strong. Well, our reserves came in, our reserves went up, they increased last year. And so we do have $5.5 million planned for some one-time projects. And we'll see those here in just a second. Oh, look at that. I didn't click there. All right, there's those. Then we get down to the recurring budget analysis, which you can see when we talk about our conservative budget. I know we mentioned a couple weeks ago that this budget it looks like we're budgeting for a deficit. Well, when you look at 2018, 2019, and 2020 on this chart, all three of those years were budgeted to break even. But as we described that conservative nature of our revenues and expenses, what actually ends up playing out was growing by about $2 million. And 2021, we expect the same thing to happen. We budgeted for a negative $400,000. We expect that to be positive by quite a bit as well. And so there's no reason to think that the 2022 budget will do any different, which is why we're very comfortable adopting this budget with a bit of a deficit there. Then after that, we get into the general fund departments. So if you ever wanted to see descriptions of the individual departments that make up the general fund, we've got descriptions, we've got a little bit of history on a little more detail on what expenses make up that department, and even the staffing trends. And then we've got budget notes. So if there's anything specific to 2022 that we would like to call out, we'll throw those budget notes right there. So sometimes you'll see a surprising percentage change from 2021 to 2022, and hopefully we've got most of that detailed down there in the budget notes. And then at the end of that general fund section, after the departments, you see all of those one-time requests that total up to that 5.5 million number that we were just looking at. These cover all sorts of different projects and one-time purchases. Some of these, the big ones you'll see that pop out are Lincoln Park. The general fund's putting $1 million towards the gap in Lincoln Park funding. And then I think there's about 2.4 million that's needed remaining for the federal building remodel. So that'll come out of some of the reserves as well. Then after the general fund, we get on to other funds. So we've got 43 other funds besides the general fund. Each one of them will have a description and have more detail on the revenues and expenses, similar to the way we displayed each one of the departments. And then after all those funds, we have our capital projects. These are summaries of each one of the capital projects the city plans to be working on during 2022. Some will just be started in 2022, others will be finishing up in 2022. But all of these budgeted numbers that are in the capital project budgets are also wrapped up into the individual fund and department budgets that you'll be adopting in that Exhibit A. So I know there's a lot of information in there, and I probably talked really fast because I was trying not to drag this out very long. So if you have any questions right now, I'm happy to answer them. If you want to chew on this over the next couple weeks, feel free to reach out to me with any questions, and then otherwise we'll bring it back pretty much in a similar form to adopt in 2 weeks, and I will not spend as much time talking about it then.
And I noticed you had the Rivercon budget in about 720. I'm guessing it's going to come in the 470 range. So that will get us closer to a balanced budget, and we may, depending on how close we get, you may see a little increase in sales tax to net those all out if we decide to get close. We'll see how I do next Wednesday, but it will clearly be a couple $100,000 less than what he's budgeted and maybe more.
So yeah, so at this point, the only change that could possibly be in there from tonight's view to 2 weeks from now is our couple minor changes that way that might make it look better, not worse. So that's good.
Any questions for Brad? Can't believe we're finishing number 10 for me. Yeah. A lot of budgets. Yeah. All right, mayor's report. I usually look at my calendar. I did go last Friday to the grand opening of Burlington clothing store. To be the old J.C. Penney. It was interesting as I was sitting there talking with Dan Barr and his son, and we were going through all of the tenants of the old mall. And I needed Mark Kulas there to help me go through the Athlete's Foot and the Caramel Corn Place and the Mandarin, and I think we went through all, just
Town
telling
Square.
me. What's that?
Town Square.
Oh, Town Squire was in there, yep,
Winnie's.
yep. Was Robinson's in there for a while too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
Robinson's.
Steve Smith will remember all those, so yeah, we were going through all the,
Hole-in-One Donut Shop.
yep. I just remember the smell with the Caramel Corn shop when you
Yeah.
walked in there, yeah, yeah. So anyhow, that was sort of fun to do that. Other than that, obviously, we had a Public Works ED council meeting earlier this week. The committee met, and there's lots going on Public Works, so that was good. Getting a lot of stuff sort of caught up. We continue to work on Confluence Parkway. Laura and I met with the friends at the PUD on Monday. So again, getting the alignment of the trail sort of worked on and some of the sort of environmental issues. Laura continues to do great work on the NEPA process, and so got a few more hoops to jump through on that one. A few small delays, not because of us, but because of other things that are going on that are causing those delays. Really, that was sort of all. I do have our Rivercon board meeting on Wednesday, so I think I'll take this one for you and see if I can win my battle. Not sure how that's going to go. Other than that, I think everything else seems to be going pretty well. Laura, anything to sort of add to the stuff we're working on? Yeah, go ahead.
I think you're probably going to remember what I'm going to remind you about. I just want to thank the council for coming to the construction tour earlier today. So did a construction tour of the first and mezzanine floors, and it's really cool to see everything coming together. And Alyssa and Aaron took everyone through the area and showed them. As you can see, the on-site work's almost done, so Yakima's open, that parking's open. It will be signed for visitor parking in the future once the rest of the things open, so that'll be visitor parking on Yakima with some 15-minute drop-in slots, and then the rest of it will be first come, first serve. So we'll have another one here in a couple months as the walls continue to get framed up, and it's really exciting to see it come together. Did you want to talk about
invalid selection?
A swearing-in ceremony date?
Yeah, so are we ready to find a date in our calendars to do a swearing-in ceremony for our three council members, and then for the last gathering for Ruth and Jim? We usually do it that week between Christmas and New Year's. New Year's Eve is the 31st, so either the 30th or 29th. We usually do a noon meeting, if I remember. Anybody have a preference on those 2 days?
Either one is fine. I'm going to be out of town until the 28th, so the 29th or 30th would be great.
Okay. Jim, Ruth, I'll let you guys help pick. Are you going to be around?
Yeah. You should be around.
Either one works for me.
Anybody have a preference? Should we do the 30th?
Yep.
30th at noon?
30th at noon.
Okay, so we'll have Tammy get a hold of a judge to come down and do a little swearing in, and we'll say our goodbyes to Ruth and Jim and have a little gathering in here, and yeah, okay, so we'll shoot for the 30th at noon to do our swearing in ceremony and all of that good stuff. Council members, anything on your end of all the meetings you guys have to go to?
Not on a meeting note, but you should have received an email from Association of Washington Cities announcing the openings for committee positions. And it includes the Legislative Priorities Committee, which I brought up before, that they would encourage someone continuing on to apply for that. And the mayor's office can probably find the letter that they sent when I did it in support that would go to the president of AWC. I just, I don't really want, I really think that it needs somebody from Wenatchee on it. Yet it also needs new voices on the committee as a whole.
It needs what?
New voices.
New voices, yeah.
Yeah. And they meet and in the email, or if you click the link, they meet 4 times. Most likely it's going to be electronic. And first meeting is not until May. But the applications which you apply for online are due on the 16th, which is coming up.
Okay.
We will not have another council meeting
No.
before then. So I would really hope that one of you would apply for that.
Okay. And Laura and I will talk, and we'll make sure.
It doesn't take a lot of time.
Yeah,
trust me.
and if-
You know, our virtual meetings were like 2 hours long to 3. You know, we used to obviously gather, but now that we figured out this technology thing, you don't have to.
Okay.
I have been serving on their education and training committee, and the staff is very efficient.
Yeah.
Those meetings are well prepared for, and they get you in and get you out fast. So he's right, it doesn't take a lot of time.
So if one of you chooses not to, I think maybe I'll sign up for that. I'm sort of inclined to looking to 22 committee assignments. I'm sort of inclined to give Travis or Mike maybe transportation, and one of them takes Rivercon. Someone's got to take the health district, and I'm sort of wanting to step away from that sort of monthly regular, I don't know what you call it. And so this might be something I can pick up on behalf of the city to free up some other people's time if they want to take that on.
Yeah, and like I said, I would do it. I've been up for, I don't know, 6 or 8 years, I think, during my term here, and I just need new people, new voices.
Okay, we'll make sure someone from I agree with you, someone from our city should be on.
Yes.
Should be on that.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was last year. Yeah, it was either last year or the year before. I got a call from Mayor Moody. And no matter which one city she's at, Twist, yeah.
Sue.
And she's was the president of AWC, and she proceeded to let me know that the city of Wenatchee didn't participate enough. And so then I went back and I said, time out. You're on RMSA, you're on that committee, I said, I'm sorry. I think we do our part for the statewide
I
organization.
think she was getting desperate. There are 2 legislative committees. One is state and one is federal.
Well, this is the state legislative priorities. Then there's also the National League of Cities committees that you put your hat in the ring with the association, and then they select who's going to represent the state on the National League of Cities.
So the other thing to think about a little bit, I was on a Zoom call with Congresswoman Schreier today, and she and a number of legislators have dropped a bill to help us with our ARP money. It would basically say if you got less than $10 million in ARP funding, you can spend it anything you want. Brad's excited about that because right now, we've got to jump through all of these hoops. And it's not quite that simple, but it's pretty close to that. And so I was encouraging her to see if she could push that along, and that would help us a great bunch in terms of trying to allocate our resources in different places. All right.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
just mentioning, Wenatchee participation, and I should have mentioned this last month, but in October at the annual RMSA annual dinner up in Chelan, I'm stepping down as president of the board because I'm ending my term, but we do have, and I forget her last name, I'm sorry, Miranda in our accounting department. She will now be on the operations committee representing the city. So I think it's going to be a good fit for her, and it'll be good for us as well. And the operation committee actually, as a board, they do a lot of the real heavy lifting of review and
and going through stuff because they're the boots on the ground that are affected by all of this stuff. So at any rate,
Okay.
glad to have her on that operations committee, so.
Well, Your Honor, on the 16th, I will have a meeting with the Transportation Council.
Oh, good.
FFA. We're going to be doing the South Wenatchee Avenue study.
Okay, good.
And we're going to be talking about bikers, walkers,
Okay.
and the safer pedestrians. Linda, you're going to be coming too?
I will be there.
Good.
I will be there. It's
We'll
on
see
my
what happens,
calendar.
and I'll let you
Okay.
know on the following meeting.
Good. Okay. I know our staff's got some ideas and thoughts on how to make South Wenatchee Avenue more of a consumer-friendly, less car-friendly, for lack of a better word, parking for some of the businesses that don't have any, allow that area to redevelop. We get people that want to convert some of those buildings into businesses, and our code requires there to have parking, and there's no parking. And so we got some things we got to fix down there to help those folks sort of redevelop their that part of the community. So, well, thanks for doing that, Jose.
Masawa Sister City Board had their meeting last Tuesday, and you should have gotten, I don't know if you all got one or not. I know that Mayor Kuntz did.
I got
sent
something
out a
from
mi-
I got something from Kelts today. I didn't
Yeah.
remember what it was.
We sent out, we're doing a membership drive right now, so.
Okay.
To see if we can attract some more members. Dates have been set. I don't have those off the top of my head, but it is last half of August, and Mayor Kuntz, they're hoping that you're planning on going. So-
Yes, I'm planning on going. Yep. Yep. I would have gone last year, but it got canceled, so
Yeah.
I'll plan on go this year. Yep. All right, and next week is Veterans Day, so we're not meeting on the 11th, we'll meet on the 18th, and then the first, I don't know if it's the 2nd and the 9th, and then I expect the one on the 9th to be one of those longer ones as we adopt comprehensive plans and zone amendments and those sorts of things, and then, yeah, so,
I won't be on here on the 9th.
okay,
I'm going to be on vacation.
good.
I'm going to miss it.
He's going someplace warm.
Oh, good.
I won't be here on the 18th.
Okay. All
I
right,
won't be here on
And I
the 2nd.
unfortunately have to travel to Chile starting Monday for work, so
Okay.
I'll be doing my best to call in for the next meeting.
Nobody's going to be
okay,
here.
perfect.
Can
All
I
right.
collect
Our
these,
hearts are
Frank,
with
too?
you.
Yeah, we
They're all
should, yeah,
executive session
yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, executive session papers, if you'll give those to me, we'll give those to Steve.
You want these two?
All right,
Yeah, well,
we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
you know.